welcome to today's DataVox webinar, Facility Operations in Unprecedented Times and Increasing Uptime for Mission-Critical IT Environments, presented by Schneider Electric and APC. My name is Jessica, and I will be your moderator today. We are broadcasting this webinar through Cisco WebEx events, and the audio can be heard through your PC or by calling into the phone number listed and with the access code provided in your confirmation email or calendar invite for this event. Today's webinar is being recorded on behalf of DataVox, and participation in this event indicates your consent to being included in that recording. All attendees will receive an email with a link to the completed recording 24 to 48 hours post-event. If you have any questions for the presenters at any time during this presentation, you may submit those questions via the Q&A feature to the bottom right of your screen. This should already be turned on. Simply click Q&A and the text box will appear. Our panel will be responding to these questions verbally at the conclusion of the presentation. If you are in need of support or have a question not pertaining to today's topic, please utilize the chat feature and I will be happy to assist you. This feature is separate from the Q&A feature and can be turned on by clicking the chat bubble in the lower center of your screen. Now that we have reviewed the features of this webinar, we would like to start off today's presentation with a few words from our VP of Building Technology Solutions, Mike Bebchuk. Mike, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Jessica, and good morning, everybody. Today's session, we're lucky to have two industry veterans from Schneider Electric, Scott Beecham, National Director, and Jennifer Eigert from APC. And they're going to share with us the discussions they've been having with their clients around the region during these unprecedented times. I know these conversations are front and center and top of mind for everybody. Two different topics for today. Scott's going to talk to us about how to maintain operational efficiency during this time, not only, during buildings low occupancy, but also when people return to work. And then Jennifer is going to speak to how important it is for battery backup during these times, especially when people bring on new technologies as part of their return to work strategies. And so having said that, I will turn over the presentation to Scott. Scott, good morning.
Good morning. Coming off mute, so I hope everybody can hear me well. Thank you, Mike. Thanks to DataVox and for setting these webinars up. I think it's a terrific way to share what we're all kind of hunkered down, right? So thank you all for joining us as well. I'm going to chat with you a little bit about what we have been experiencing with our customers and our partners like DataVox, what they're hearing from their customers, and how we're trying to help them during these times. So I'll jump right into it before I turn it over to Jen in just a bit. And I'll start by kind of stating the obvious, I believe. Earlier this year, everybody's aware about mid-March time, numerous buildings from all the vertical markets we work in, whether it's commercial office or sports venues, arenas, stadiums, to retail, pretty much everything except healthcare, right? Went from full occupancy to either low or no occupancy in a very short period of time. And with that, there was a lot of challenges. How do I make sure my building's operating efficiently? But of course, I think top of everybody's mind was the safety and health of the people that worked in these facilities, as well as the guests that came into the facilities, customers, and so forth. So with that as a backdrop, we talked to one of the benefits of being a global company is we have partners like DataVox around the globe, certainly throughout North America and the US, and talking with numerous customers and partners to discuss their customers' needs. We were really able to boil things down into three buckets of questions we were getting. One is how can I make sure that my building is operating efficiently, safely, securely during these low or no occupancy times? Secondly, the occupants that are still showing up to the building, whether it's facilities or security or your critical business and people are showing up, how do we make sure they're safe and they're comfortable and the building itself is secure when it's sitting idle and nobody's got eyes on it? And then really important as a lot of areas start to come through this and open back up. How do I get my building back to normal operation after the low or no occupancy times? And then when people go back, how do they feel safe and secure in those buildings? So we'll tell you what we're hearing and what's happening and some of the agencies that are involved and so forth. So, before we get into kind of the steps a lot of people are taking, we recommend a couple things to any clients we're talking to is first of all, reach out to your service provider, like a DataVox or whoever takes care of your building or buildings to help you walk through what can be done. And another thing is to carefully document everything that you do, because when we come out of it, you're going to need to put things back to normal occupancies, normal set points, to get everything back to the way it was. So documenting things is really critical. So I've got a few slides here that are 10 or 12 things, steps that a lot of building owners are taking to keep their buildings efficient and safe during these times. And I will point out that as you're going through here, think about while we're in a really different time right now with a virus that shut us down, this won't be the only times buildings are facing low or no occupancy, right? People in Houston, like I live in Florida, are very familiar with hurricanes and flooding and things like that. So there will be more times where buildings are low or no occupancy. So a lot of these things will apply. So whatever you don't do now is something you can think about doing, or things you wish you had now you can think about doing to facilities in the future, right? So number one is we've suggested everybody kind of take stock of what they've got with their HVAC, building automation system, physical security systems, et cetera. And I'm not going to read every one of these because I'm going to make this slide deck available to Mike and Jessica at DataVox. Contact them. They'll be able to get you a copy of this, no problem, as well as a white paper we've developed around this. Secondly, determine your system architecture. What that means is which assets are connected to your building automation system, which assets are you connected to your security system, and which ones aren't, because the one that aren't, you're going to have to manually go adjust those if you're going to do any kind of adjustment or shut things off or change set points, right? And another reason for documenting so you can come back to those things that are manual. A couple of things that we are hearing quite often is more of a focus on deep efficiency. Everybody talks about and hears about normal setbacks. So at nighttime when your building goes into setback, or on the weekends if it's an office building, for example, when we're in these times, you can actually go into a much deeper setback, right? Because you don't have to recover as quickly in the morning to get the building cool, for example, for people when they come in the next morning. So you may be able to set back to 82 or 85 degrees instead of 80 degrees, for example, in southern climates. Not to mention we got a lot of northern clients where it's just the opposite. Heating, same thing. Set it back down to a deeper efficiency so you're not running as much heating. There's even things like closing blinds, turning off lights in the south, reduce the amount of heat load in the building, reducing the load on HVAC equipment. Another critical thing is we cannot forget the people that remain in the building. So there can be some facility staff or security staff, even if the building's not open, they're going to need some conditioned space. They still need access to the building. They need some lighting in HVAC, but there's certainly a lot of areas in facilities, gymnasiums, cafeterias, conference rooms, that blinds can be shut, lights can be shut down, and HVAC goes into deeper setback. Assess your economizer or ventilation modes. What that really means is the use of outside air, right? A lot of people are familiar with rooftop units or pressurization fans. During times when there's not a lot of people in the facilities, you can cut back on the amount of outside air being brought in. That outside air is 90 or 100 degrees in a lot of parts of the South, and you have to cool that. You cut back on the amount of outside air. It reduces the HVAC load, reduces the amount of cooling you need, and therefore your utility costs. Again, if it's automated, your system can take it back to the normal occupied mode when we reset. Number 6 here you'll see is really critical. While we're doing anything in these facilities, people certainly have to keep humidity in check. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with mold and mildew, moisture kind of concerns, but obviously what we're going through right now with COVID, there are concerns if humidity gets too low. The health professionals are saying that's a breeding ground on surfaces for viruses. There are several agencies like ASHRAE. If many of you have heard of FIT or WELL buildings, engineering firms are starting to design more and more buildings, whereas you used to hear about LEED facilities quite often in energy savings. Now it's a whole lot about indoor air quality. And FIT and WELL, which our certification levels buildings can get, we'll touch on that in just a minute. And ASHRAE will be coming out with what they're saying are going to be some different, we just talked about the amount of outside air. Fresh air dilutes anything in the air, the more of it you bring in. So there may be some standards that raise the amount of outside air that need to be brought in per person or per square foot of a facility based on the type of facility. So humidity is really critical in these times. Oops, sorry. The other thing is electrical and storage spaces. Those type of spaces can often run, you can bring them up much higher. So setback on fan coil units or VAVs that dump air into these spaces, those spaces can look to go much, much higher temperatures, saving more energy, right? Typically, the reason we keep them at a reasonable temperature is for the people that have to go in them for service. A few more here. We've got a lot of clients around the country that have multiple locations like, 7-Eleven type facilities or Circle K's where they have walk-in coolers or refrigerators. Restaurants that have emptied that are not doing takeout. A lot of them have emptied their freezers and coolers, yet the freezers and coolers were completely running still 24/7, keeping things cool. Another way to really reduce your energy costs until we get back to occupancy and people start filling up their walk-in coolers and freezers. Many people have variable frequency drives or adjustable frequency drives on pumps and air handling unit fans and so forth. These are perfect times to take advantage of those to reduce the amount of energy, reduce the amount of fan speed and airflow, water flow, although up north we got to keep water moving so pipes don't freeze. The engineers certainly want us to keep some airflow too so you don't have stagnant areas, especially with these viruses around. But with no occupancy, you can certainly reduce it. As I said before, we're going to have to make sure we get those back to normal speed and normal occupancy, when we get back to normal occupancy. Another thing that's really important, and throughout all the customers globally in the U.S., you'd probably be surprised that we found that about 55 to 60% of our clients are remotely connected to their systems, which left a whole lot of people that aren't remotely connected to their systems. And that's kind of the number one calls we're getting is, how do I come out and get my system connected remotely? So people are able to monitor what's going on in their building and see how it responds without having to send somebody to the building, right? So I'll come close to closing here with, don't forget about your security systems, access to your facilities. Having remote connectability to that not only keeps the occupants that are in there safe, keeps your facility safe. With nobody there, there's nobody to keep eyes on the facility. Your security system can do that for you and notify you, especially if you're remotely connected. And lastly, I'll say what a lot of people are taking advantage of during this time is things that they're realizing they wish they had right now, whether it's indoor air quality sensing, whether it's control of those economizers or other mechanical or lighting or blinds that they don't. These are the times a lot of people are making plans for their next projects, right? And thinking about what they can do down the road with their buildings or facilities. The other thing I told you we're getting asked a lot, and I wanted to make sure I hit on before we come to a close, is returning to work. DataVox is there just like we're there to help walk you through it. As I talked about, LEED used to be a big focus on connectability of buildings to save energy. Now you'll see, I put a couple, I mentioned Fitwel and WELL certified buildings, which are becoming more and more prominent. Their websites where you can find a whole lot of information are at the bottom of the screens. As people go back to work, they're going to want to know that they're in facilities that they feel safe, right? There's going to be a lot of things come out. We're starting to hear from those agencies. You all have probably been to a grocery store recently. I know I have, where they've got signs all over about social distancing and saying 6 feet apart. Those kind of notifications for people in facilities. How often they clean their facilities and surfaces that transmit disease. Things like I mentioned, the amount of outside air changes to keep air fresh and dilute any pathogens in the air. The protocols, how often they clean. So there's a whole list of things that buildings are going to be doing outside of building automation or security that people are going to be looking for that are important to their buildings and people wanting to come back, right? We talked quite a bit about remote connectivity to your buildings. As I said, we are very, very busy right now getting some people connected so they can monitor things like their HVAC and security systems, even electrical power. If something trips or goes out, you can get advanced notification of it. Or even with analytics these days, whether it's your UPSs and PDUs that Jen is going to take over and chat about in just a minute, being able to have advanced notification that something may trip or may go out or it's running higher amps than normal, those are valuable things to have where you can get remote connectivity to your facilities if you don't have it now. We can certainly help you with that. Contact your rep at DataVox. We'll be happy to walk through it with them and you at any point in time. I'll close real quickly, Jen, before I turn it over to you and just let people know that we've got our systems in our IoT-based BMS and security systems being monitored and installed in over 1 million buildings worldwide of all different vertical markets. You see Navigant and Verdanix there are a couple of independent agencies that rate BMS systems and all the way from the hardware and the software and the analytics and the apps that come with them. And we are consistently the last several years running at the top of the list with many of those organizations. So we stand by ready to help you. I certainly appreciate everybody joining this morning. Thank you for listening to me. Stay safe and stay well. And with that, Jen, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and turn it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Can you hear me okay, everybody? Okay, hopefully so. Looks like we've got a little bit of a lag here in the transfer from Scott to myself, so we'll give that a second to transfer over here. But thank you everyone for joining today. My name is Jen Eager and I am the channel manager for South Texas with APC. And DataVox is one of our highest level partners here in the market. They are a premier partner, so we're very excited to be with them here today. And Scott, I am still viewing your screen, so were you able to pass that ball over to me? Oh, perfect. Thank you. Okay, great. Thanks, Scott. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about, as you get into going back to work, how you can gain more visibility into your physical infrastructure environment. So what exactly does that mean? Well, whether you are at home right now or planning to go back to work in the next couple of weeks, I encourage you to ask yourself how much of your physical infrastructure you actually have visibility into. So whether it's your UPSs, your uninterruptible power supplies, your PDUs, your power distribution, or your crack units, in-row cooling, heat removal units, or environmental monitoring, there are different layers of visibility that we can gain access to, and that's really important to start to take a proactive approach towards your environment. And our customers have been asking us to move away from reactive software and move into proactive software, which helps them reduce the total cost of ownership of their physical infrastructure and also helps mitigate risk for downtime by having visibility to issues before they even pop up. So what we're going to go through today is a little snippet of that software and some of the outputs and assessments that we partner with DataVox to provide you as the customer to reduce that risk and total cost of ownership. So EcoStructure IT is our cloud-based monitoring and management platform that's really the next level after our traditional data center infrastructure management software that used to be on-premise. And while we still offer StructureWare, we find that many of our customers are asking us for a way to offload this responsibility from their plates. They would like to dedicate their IT staff's time and bandwidth to solving other problems within their organization aside from managing their physical infrastructure. And DataVox has a phenomenal managed services practice that we partner with. So DataVox can help monitor and manage that environment for you. APC can also do that monitoring and management through our Network Operations Center. So either of those two flavors are a way to utilize this software, a third flavor being you, the customer, managing and monitoring it on your own if you choose to do so, and that is a best practice for your company. So we'll dive right into the software, and let me just log in really quickly. Okay. So there are a couple different views that we have within EcoStructure itself. So we can log in as a customer or a partner. If you were to outsource your EcoStructure software to APC or DataVox, you would still have access to a portal to take a look into your environment whenever you would like to do so.
Jen, I'm sorry to interrupt real quick. If you could actually just reshare your screen there. We're just seeing a gray screen.
No problem. Okay. Thank you, Jessica. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, great. So we do have two-factor authentication when we log into this app. So if you are a part of a company that hasn't really worked much with cloud-based software, please let us know if you have any questions based on security, because we have a very secure platform, as you can see. We can help answer any of those questions for you. Okay, so we're going into the APC Sandbox, which is essentially our test and demo environment, and we're going to be drilling into an individual customer and showing some preliminary information that we can see through EcoStructure, as well as some assessments that really provide some visibility into your UPS health, essentially. And keep in mind that UPS health is critical in backing up your mission-critical networking equipment, and that's a true investment that is really what we like to think of as the insurance on the data center. So we will drill into Schneider Electric Denmark here, and this is a test customer account. So what's important here that I want to point out is the number of devices that are connected. So Say that you have 200 devices in your network, but only 100 are connected after you download this gateway. That gives you visibility into what's actually connected to the network. Maybe half of your UPSs don't have network management cards, but you're looking for that visibility into the environment. So we in DataVox can help you add on network management cards to your environment to make sure that you're at a 100% visibility level to mitigate downtime and risk in your environment. We can also get a snapshot of critical and warning alarms that are occurring in the environment. And we will drill into this individual customer here, which is an example. So from a preliminary standpoint, we have information on the types of alarms that you might be experiencing. So when you download the gateway, you can set thresholds for temperature, voltage. If you go under 117 volts on the input, we can have an alarm that pushes into EcoStructure, and DataVox could give you a call, APC can give you a call, or you can manage that yourself. We have the same thresholds for temperature, for humidity, and very critical aspects like that that affect how well the UPS is performing over its lifespan, as well as its ability to keep your mission critical networking gear up and running. So we can give you a geographical snapshot of where your devices are located. And then this is some preliminary information on when the alarms were occurring. And we can also go into things like dedicated data center temperature analytics and look at some of the trends that might be happening within your IDFs, MDFs, or data centers and filter through individual locations that you might have. From an inventory perspective, we're able to actually aggregate with our competitors and other vendors and manufacturers. So anything that's speaking SNMP or Modbus, we're actually able to pull into this environment. Now, the information we can get from the APC units will be most granular, but we are able to see basic health information from, say, a trip-light environment. And many of our customers do have mixed environments, so we can help you manage a mixed environment and reduce your total cost of ownership through this software. We can filter by device types, whether it's a PDU, a ATS, or a crack unit, through models, through manufacturers, and through gateways. We'll drill into one of these UPSs just to give you a snapshot of some of the information that we can see. Let's go into this 6K UPS. So a lot of times what we will do with our customers when they become an EcoStructure customer is we download critical information. So this is a snapshot of what we will be able to download from your environment. This was for a customer very recently that we worked with. And we will take a look at the serial numbers, which is the number one thing that I talk to my customers about to gauge how old their UPSs are. So if a UPS is 7 to 10 years old, we're going to be recommending a replacement to make sure that you're replacing that UPS before there's an internal critical failure. And one thing that's important here is we'll take this AS serial number, for example. This was manufactured in 2013. So the first two digits indicate when it was manufactured. The third and fourth digit indicates the week it was manufactured, so the 48th week in 2013. I'll look at that and say, okay, that's a 7-year-old UPS.
Jen?
We should start working. Yes?
Hi, Jen. So sorry, we can't see your screen again. I think when you're switching between applications, it just has to be reshared.
Thank you. Sorry about that. All right, I will keep that in mind. So I'm sharing this Excel doc, and this is an example of data that we can pull from the gateway that you download into your environment to have a conversation about how old are your UPSs and are you ready for these to potentially fail, which they will at some point, and are you prepared with a budget that you propose to upper management for this replacement, and are you acting in a proactive manner to replace them before they end up dying and potentially dropping your network equipment. Something that is actually very surprising to many of my customers is the number one reason for downtime is a poorly managed UPS. And this helps mitigate that potential poor management by getting ahead of issues and not allowing these batteries to sit in very warm environments for extended periods of time by looking at how old they are. So this serial number that I had pulled up is manufactured in the 48th week of 2013, as we can see from those first 4 digits. So my recommendation to this customer would be to replace this individual unit, and we would run through all of the units that you have to make those recommendations with DataVox. And then let me stop sharing this and bounce back over to the EcoStructure Portal. And when we drill into individual devices, we can look at runtime. So say your company has a 30-minute runtime standard. We'll do an audit of your equipment to make sure that your equipment is up to standard. And say for this UPS here, we would add an external battery pack to get you up to 30 minutes. Or say that we have 60 minutes and it's a 30-minute runtime you're looking for. Then for the next UPS, we can drop you down a size and right size you for the needs of your equipment that's backing up. So this is actually pulling information. This EcoStructure Portal is constantly pulling information from our data lake, which actually has over 200,000 units connected worldwide. So we're able to give you a benchmark on, hey, how are you doing against other customers who have the same UPS as yourself? So if this customer was being benchmarked, we would look at, okay, for battery temperature, we're looking at potentially looking at some heat removal solutions for your environment. It looks like you're pretty warm with the temperature that's within the IDF that this battery might be sitting in. For the age, okay, this UPS is somewhat old and we can talk about a replacement, but there are some other units that might be a little bit older that are still active. But for the most part, the majority of units that are this few are actually younger than the unit that you have, which kind of validates our suggestion to potentially replace this unit or the internal battery within this unit. And then from a UPS perspective, we would look at the actual UPS's age itself. So this is all very critical information to ensuring that you're keeping your mission critical gear up and running through managing the UPSs correctly. We can go into very customizable assessments, and I'll run through a quick example of this here in the next couple minutes that I do have. So we can look at the UPS score, which again uses our benchmarked information in the data lake to give you an idea of where you're at. So we'll drill into this 6 kVA unit again. We're giving this unit a 21 out of 100 based on how other units are performing. And we'll tell you why we gave you this score. So this UPS has almost a 9-year age. That's very old, so we really should start budgeting for a replacement of this unit. We can kind of drill into some additional information. The battery temperature has been changing and increasing. We can look specifically at the battery itself. And if you look at a 26 degrees Celsius temperature, that's an average. You're looking at about 80 degrees Fahrenheit or over for this unit, which is too warm to be housing a lead acid battery within. And then we give you some statistics on the main factors of wear, age being the #1 reason for a UPS dying, and then temperature being a close third, with cycles being a second. So the number of times that a UPS is cycling and turning on and off. So very detailed information. We would be able to output this for you into a nice PDF assessment. So I'll stop sharing and pull up my little PDF here for you guys. And we can get as granular as you would like. We had a customer in the Midwest who actually was a pharmaceutical company that was plugging in their refrigerators housing medical items into the same circuit as their IT gear, which was causing the UPSs to drop their load. And they were able to download the gateway, give us and the partner visibility into their environment, and that was able to give them the information that they needed to figure out that those refrigerators were on the same circuit as their UPSs. So I'm still pulling up this PDF. Bear with me for 1 second. All right. And this will give you a quick little snapshot of what the output assessment would look like. And let's see, it's not pulling it up. Okay, well, we can always follow up with that after the presentation, but essentially it's a 1-page PDF that has graphs on UPS age, internal battery age, temperature and humidity in your environment, which are some of the main factors affecting health. So I encourage you again to start thinking about how much visibility do I have into my environment, and how could having more visibility help save me and my company time and money over the lifespan of our equipment. How many times are we going into an IDF and physically opening the door and looking to see if the battery is beeping? Or how much money are we paying a third party to go into that IDF and look for that, when we could have a portal like this automatically giving us that information, or DataVox or APC calling us with that proactively instead of reactively? And so the last thing I'm going to share are a couple of items that our customers have been asking for more information about. So one of them being lithium-ion, and the other being pre-integrated micro data centers. So I'll share my PowerPoint before we wrap up here. So from a total cost of ownership perspective, lithium-ion is a great solution for reducing the total cost of ownership when paired against lead acid. So you're looking at an internal battery lifespan of about 6 to 10 years, about 7 to 10 in cooler environments. And you're also looking at a very large decrease in weight. So a 1500 VA UPS that's lead acid weighs about 63 pounds. A 1500 VA UPS that's lithium ion weighs about 43 pounds. So there's a very stark contrast. And we bring these guys to trade shows all the time. Customers pick them up, and they're very excited about potentially not throwing their back out anymore through using lithium ion solutions. And we have short depth units for lithium ion, so they're able to fit into wall mount applications and cabinets, whereas our sealed lead acid batteries are a little bit longer in depth. So for this product line, you're also looking at some enhanced visibility. Obviously, we can put a network management card in this unit, similar to our other UPSs, and connect it to EcoStructure software. And we really recommend using a network management card when you have about 5+ UPSs in your fleet. Below 5 UPSs, we recommend using an RJ45 port that we've manufactured into the back of the UPS that provides one-way communication to a complementary app for EcoStructure that we're able to provide you. And it gives some basic health information, not as granular as the EcoStructure software, but basic enough to know when a battery is died, when a UPS is off, or if there's any critical information like that occurring with your unit. And then moving into a conversation that I've been having with a lot of my customers in terms of, okay, when we do go back to work, how can we increase our speed to market as a company, and how can we increase our speed of deployment for our IT gear? We have customers like hospital entities that are putting IT gear where they never have before. There's a campus in Tennessee that APC had a project with to deploy UPS equipment on the walls while they deployed hospital beds in an underground parking garage, right? So we're talking about saving space as well as pre-integration to reduce the time it takes to get that equipment on site, because it's very mission critical. So this unit here on the left, it's integrated with a in-row cooling solution, a UPS, a power distribution unit, HID access control for the cabinet, as well as a little camera that you can see on the top left. That's a security camera that senses motion every time someone walks in front of that unit. Pre-integrated at our Schneider facility, and DataVox also has an enterprise class integration capability. So we can ship that to DataVox, and they can put in some IT gear into that cabinet to have an all-in-one solution shipped to you, which is reducing the freight and shipping costs for all of those individual pieces of parts that we would have otherwise been shipping. And we have this in 42U, 12U options, as well as sound attenuated options. So for a finance customer, they might want something that's backing up some bank teller equipment within a branch itself once we get back to work. And this unit in the bottom right-hand screen here, that's sound attenuated. So you're not hearing any of the IT equipment noise that's coming from this application. So really we're talking about how to speed up your capabilities and get you to market faster once you do return back to work. And the last thing that I have to share with you here today is our 6U wall-mounted micro data center. So this is what that hospital was putting on their walls when they were creating some hospital bed space in the underground parking garage. So very interesting application. This also fits well into environments where space saving is key. You weren't planning to put any IT equipment in that room. This mounts vertically on the wall. So this is different than a lot of our competitors' wall mount cabinets, which have very high depth. This is very low depth. That UPS, as you can see, is mounted vertically. Very easy to integrate. And again, we can integrate this with a power distribution unit, that lithium-ion UPS that you see right there, along with a security camera at the top of the rack to ensure that any non-IT staff that might have access to that room, maybe it's a clinic, a healthcare clinic that this is going into, and it's going into a room with a patient in it, to make sure it's high enough that it's less accessible and also has HID access security. So as we wrap this up, and before I pass this over to Mike, please keep in mind that DataVox and APC and Schneider are here to help you mitigate your risk, reduce your total cost of ownership, and increase your speed to market as you're getting back to work. And a lot of that has to do with gaining more visibility into your environment through connected devices. So thank you so much for your time. And with that, I will pass it over to Mike for some Q&A.
Thanks, Janet. Thanks, Scott. Great information that everybody can use. We do have a couple questions. So I'm going to start with the first question, and if you guys could chime in and respond. So the first question is, what percentage of remote home users are coming back to work and staying back versus working from home? And there was a comment that they've noticed that the employees are more efficient working from home and also reducing maintenance costs, power consumption, AC. I guess that speaks to the low occupancy environment, Scott, where, you know, how do they maintain operational efficiency, and they're gaining some, I guess, cost reductions while doing this. And I think maybe you can speak to the energy management tools that you guys have that will help some of our clients.
Yeah, the may stay back and or they found they're efficient. The first question is absolute. It saves energy on the building and less loads, less people in the buildings, right? No in there. As to a percentage that may stay home, I think it might be too early to answer that. We're getting a lot of the same questions. And in fact, even a company the size of Schneider, we've got, what, Jen, 150,000 employees around the world, and maybe 15,000 of them in the U.S. alone. We are looking at what positions have been able to work very efficiently at home, and we may take steps to offer more of those moving forward. But as different parts of the country open, different types of businesses open, there's so many different job duties that will have to go, physically have to be there versus working remotely. I think it's a little too early to tell, but we are going to find some that do stay home because they did work efficiently. Absolutely.
Sure. And what about how your energy management? I think you guys have some fantastic dashboards where people can utilize those dashboards and get the data to help manage their energy better. And it's probably more important now than ever.
Yeah, sorry, I had my camera off there too, but and I'm getting some feedback on the audio side. I'm sorry if that's coming out on the other end, but yes, you know, we've been able to work with a lot of clients, and not only the things they're monitoring, like indoor air quality is a big thing, and I think I mentioned that earlier, and I think you brought it up. Having the right sensing devices, being able to monitor these remotely to see what's going on, how they react to the way you're operating your HVAC systems. MEP engineers are designing systems around indoor air quality. I mentioned the FIT and so forth. As far as our software solutions, yes, there are like building analytics platforms that instead of somebody having to look to find issues or problems, the analytics find those things for them and actually create the work orders so maintenance staff can be more efficient out there and address the things that need to be fixed proactively rather than a break-fix reactive scenario. And the other key point there is we've got a number of clients that have various manufacturers of BMS systems. We've been able to, as long as they can feed up somehow, like backnet points, for example, we can bring those into a common dashboard, common alarming through a building analytics platform to give them that predictive maintenance. I hope that answers your question.
Thanks, Scott. Another question. This one's for Jen. How long are replacement batteries available? They purchased some UPSs in 2015, and last year when they went to find replacement batteries, they were unavailable. Is there a shelf life and availability to some of these replacement batteries, Jen?
Sure, and that's a great question. So thanks, Prasad, for asking. Our units are manufactured with 10 years of serviceability after their end of life date if we were to stop manufacturing that specific SKU. So I'd love to get some more information from you on whether or not that was maybe an APC product, and if it was, you can give that SKU to your DataVox representative, and I can kind of dig into that for you, because in my experience, I haven't seen any UPSs that don't have any replacement batteries available for an entire year. That's never something that I've seen within Schneider. We manufacture those very readily, as there are so many needs to replace those. So please definitely follow up, and even in the Q&A, if you have that information, we can take that and follow up with you afterwards. But I will say, DataVox has many different ways to access inventory, so we can work with you to help solve that problem.
Thanks, Jen. Good feedback. Another follow-up question about lithium-ion batteries. I know they've been on the market for some time now. What percentage of those batteries and of that size battery are moving to the market with lithium-ion?
Sure. I would say probably about a quarter of my customers are making the transition from lead acid to lithium ion. I worked with a very large school district in San Antonio recently to specify APC lithium ion UPSs into their most recent E-rate bid. And we've had customers all across Texas start asking for that specification to be offered for their UPSs, whether they're a higher ed entity or an ISD or any other vertical. So I would say most verticals are making that transition. I haven't seen any verticals that aren't specifically, and it's definitely a higher and higher percentage every year that goes by.
Great, thanks. I think a final question for both of you guys. I think both of you guys mentioned, take an inventory of what you have today. What does your environment look like? And you guys do assessments for customers all the time. Scott, first with you, maybe you could share with people what that looks like, and then Jen, you could share people with what that looks like. And I think after that, we'll wrap up, and I'll hand it back over to Jessica.
Great question, Mike. Yeah, that's an activity we do quite often. Our manufacturers, we support our EcoExpert partners on the buildings or digital energy side of Schneider. DataVox is one of those. So typically when DataVox, the partner in a market like a Houston, for example, Dallas-Fort Worth, wherever it happens to be, has a customer that's interested in taking inventory, that's something we're happy to go out with DataVox, take an inventory of the building, see how things are operating, make suggestions, have those conversations with the owner as to what they want to do and what makes most sense for them based on how they operate and what type of facility they are.
Great. Thanks, Scott. Jen, I think you have some tools as well.
Absolutely. And to kind of echo what Scott was saying, so we, when things do get back to normal and as we return to work, have the ability traditionally to go on site and do complementary power assessments. So a DataVox rep can go on site with an APC engineer and myself, and we'll look at your three-phase data center all the way to your single-phase rack mount UPSs. We'll take into account cooling, heat removal, power distribution, busway, even transformers. Our engineers can have all of those conversations. So in person, we're more than capable to do that as we start to return back to work. And then virtually, the EcoStructure software that I was showing can be done completely over the computer. So we can work with you and your DataVox rep for 30 minutes to set up the gateway, set some thresholds, and start pulling in all of your devices to really get granular and make some recommendations to help save you money.
That's good information. We appreciate both of y'all's time today. I know Schneider Electric is front and center always, but in this environment even more so. So appreciate the opportunity of having you guys visit with us this morning. And I guess for those folks that attended, let us know how we can help, how we can be a resource for you guys. And having said that, Jessica, I will turn it back over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Mike. And thank you all for joining today's webinar. As a reminder, the recording link for today's session will be emailed to all attendees 24 to 48 hours post-event. If you did enjoy today's session and would like to hear more, we do offer new webinars weekly. Please check our DataVox website for more information on upcoming sessions. And as always, we would love to hear your feedback on our events. Once this webinar has ended, you will be redirected to a survey page. If you could please take a moment to complete the survey before closing out your browser, we would greatly appreciate it. That concludes our session for today. Thank you again to Scott and Jen for a great presentation, and thank you all for joining us. Have a great rest of your day.